On 23 January 2023, the Commission sent you a request for the submission of the 5-year declaration of assets and personal interests. On 30 January 2023, you submitted your 5-year declaration. The Commission also asked candidates to voluntarily complete and submit an ethics questionnaire, and you did so already on 4 July last year, 2022. The Commission sent you 4 rounds of questions on 14 March, 28 April, 11 May and 16 May respectively. You were asked a total number of 27 questions, including 56 subparts, and 32 of the questions included a request for further documentation. According to Article 3, Paragraph 4 of the Evaluation Rules of the Commission, a candidate may not provide information, documents or other materials during the hearing if the Commission requested these earlier and the candidate did not provide them within the time specified, unless, of course, the candidate provides sufficient justification. Members of the Commission will now start with asking you questions, and Nadezhda Rybczewski will start with asking questions first. We will try to keep our questions short and to the point, and we ask that your answers be short and to the point as well. Nadezhda, you have the floor.
Greetings. The first issue that I will address is about the sources of funds for bank deposits that you declared between 2009 and 2016. It's in this period of time that you declared 10 deposit accounts and 5 cash saving accounts in euro, American dollars, and Moldovan lei. In your annual declarations on assets and personal interests, I will further refer to them, the annual declarations, and you've declared all of them in those declarations. When asked by the Commission about the source of the funds for those deposits, you confirmed that the total value of the deposit accounts declared between 2009 to 2016, and you mentioned the following amounts: $10,000, 300,000 lei, and 12,000 euros. Total value estimated around 34,500 euros. When asked about the source of funds for these deposits, in the written communication with the Commission, you indicated that the source was the money earned by your husband in Greece, where he worked between 1997 and 1999 and 2001-2003. You also provided a written statement from a person in Greece, initials DG. The first declaration was dated 24 November 2022, attesting that your husband worked at that person's construction company between 25 October 1997 and 30 August 1999 and had a salary of 276,000 Greek drachmas a month. According to the estimates of the Commission, that was about 830 euros a month, according to the calculations that we made on the basis of the available information. So should we multiply it by 22 months that he spent in Greece, that would amount to a total of 18,260 euros. And you also provided another statement of declaration signed by that same person on that same date, confirming that your husband had a salary of 1,100 euros a month, multiplied by 30 months for the second period. Then that would amount to a total of 33,000 euros. You also indicated that your husband worked without having any legal documents in Greece between fall 1997 until September 1st, 1999. And you also stated that he, until the 1st of September 2001, that was supposed to be. And you also stated that he returned to Greece in June 2001 to acquire the documents that would allow him to work legally in Greece. So there is a mistake there, meaning that it was until September 1st, 2001. So he received his documents in September 2001 and returned to Moldova on 7 October 2001. And then in November 2001, your husband went back to Greece and worked for that same person referred to above, who was also providing him with a salary and shelter and food. He also mentioned that during his spare time, your husband would provide other construction services and that he was being paid for that in addition to his monthly salary of 1,100 euros. And there were thus other amounts depending on the construction services he was providing. In the third round of questions, you were asked to explain how your husband covered his living expenses in Greece while he stayed there, considering that he's been sending you between the 28th of June 2001 and the 26th of December 2003, he's practically sent you all his income. And at that time, you indicated that before 7 October 2001, your husband lived with his brother in a city in the same country, and also that while he was working for DG, the living expenses of your husband were covered at that time by his employer. And you said that your husband carried out other works for which he was paid, and therefore he had more income that allowed him to cover his living expenses. And in your answers to the fourth round of questions, you provided to the Commission another statement signed on the 15th of May 2023, signed by that same person referred to above from Greece, in which it says that he provided to your husband shelter and food, and for the time that your husband worked in his construction company between the 25th of October 1997 to 30 August 1999, and the other period, 28th of June 2001 to 26th of December 2003. Between 2009 and 2012, you declared 3 bank deposits where the source of funds was your husband's work in Greece, and that was $2,500 from 2009, and which was further renewed, and then $3,000 from 2010, then with a renewal applied, and 150,000 Moldovan lei declared for the first time in 2012. In 2014, you declared a new deposit of $3,000, one of 100,000 lei, and a deposit of 5,000 euros, and another deposit of 2,500 euros. And this is all on the basis of the income of your husband between 2001 and 2003. In the third round of questions, you were asked why the deposits that you presented in your 2014 annual declaration were not in your previous annual declarations, given that the source of income of those deposits was your husband's income that he's earned while he was working in Greece between 2001 and 2003. And your answer was that the money that your husband earned while he was in Greece, that was administered by him as he saw fit. Some of them was kept in, some of that money was kept in banking institutions and other resources at home. In your 2016 NIA declaration, you declared a deposit of $10,000, which consisted of the smaller deposits declared before, 2 deposits with a cumulative amount of 300,000 lei, and 3 other deposits with a cumulative amount of 14,500 euros. And you confirmed the amount that I previously mentioned, the 34,500 euros. In the facts that you were presented, and to make it easier for us to navigate this information, you can see there a detailed table, because now I wouldn't like to go through all of that detail for all of those details like that. You can see the deposits declared in 2016 and that they were confirmed by banking documentation, by banking statements. Now I will ask you some questions. If you can initially answer yes or no to first confirm that, and then there will be other questions again where you will be able to provide more detail. So please confirm that the deposits that you declared between 2009 and 2016 in your annual declarations amounting to $10,000, 300,000 lei, and 12,000 euros, totaling 34,500 euros. I confirm. Please confirm that when you were asked about the source of funds for making those deposits, you indicated that That was the income that your husband earned while he worked in Greece between 1997, 1999, and 2001 and 2003. I confirm for the first and the second question as well. Please confirm that you provided two declarations from a Greek national, referred to as DG, which was issued in Greek, ascertaining that your husband worked for DG's construction company between October 1997 to 30 August 1999 and from 28 June 2001 to 26 December 2003. I confirm that I submitted three declarations, one with regards to where my husband lived, and the other ones had to do with expenses for accommodation and food. So three declarations in total, to the way you also said it earlier, and one additional one. You were right, I did not word it properly. I meant two of them had to do with the income, and a third one had to do with accommodation. Well, we'll look into them separately soon enough. Please confirm that in two statements of declarations of DG, he confirmed that your husband had a salary of 276,000 Greek drachmas a month, which it was about 830 euros between 25 October 1997 to 30 August 1999, and a salary of 1,100 euros between 28 June 2001 to 26 December 2003. I confirm. Then if this is correct, your husband earned a total of 51,260 euros over these two periods. I guess so. If the Commission made these calculations, then I agree with them. You can also see that information in the table in front of you. Well, potentially it is the way you said it, because I did not make calculations of my own. Please confirm that the first two declarations you submitted with regards to income, that they were both from 24 November 2022. Yes, I confirm. Can you explain why the declaration was issued on that date? I cannot say why it was particularly on that date, but I will have to be honest with the Commission, and I will say that along the way, while the hearings of other participants were being conducted, while other candidates were being heard, I was also watching the hearings, and then this made me wonder about it. If there's a source that's outside of the country, will have to be evidence, will have to be supported by some evidence, by some documents. So that's why I raised that issue with my husband. I asked him whether he had any documents related to that first period, 1997 to 1999, and for the second period as well, knowing that practically all the time he worked for the same employer who had a construction company. And when so he got in touch with that person that he worked for, DG, as you referred to him, and that person, well, when a foreigner is hired in Greece and then acquires documents to be able to legally stay in Greece, so such a person is given an ID number, and that ID number would be written down in the passport of my husband in this instance. So for us to get those certificates, those statements, we had to provide the Greek citizen the number that was written down in the passport of my husband, which I showed the Commission. There is the passport of my husband, and there is the number, and then because that serves as a document on the basis of which Greece allowed him to work legally in Greece. So yet again, I sent that number for the Greek citizen to be able to give us that sort of documentation according to their databases, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to provide us that information. So that was the procedure, and it took us months. So although the documents might have been issued in a day, but the entire communication, making sure that these documents would be produced, that was something that took some time. First of all, it took us a while until we found that passport, because it was already expired, and we were even surprised that we even still kept it and didn't throw it away. And we provided a copy of that passport in order to support the facts that actually happened. Because, for instance, between 1997 and 1999, well, in that period, I was not, in fact, married to my now husband. And at the time, I never wondered about it. And even before I had to answer the question, it's only when I had received the question that I wondered about it. But until then, I never had any questions with regards to the lawfulness of those earnings, of those sources. I never asked him for some documents as to where he worked and how he worked. I mean, we'd only address this in terms of like a communication, not as a control, as in show me how much you earned, on the basis of what, show me your labor contract, for instance. So we didn't have that sort of a communication. So this is the reality. I mean, I did realize at that time that I needed to prepare ahead of time these documents that are not issued by the Republic of Moldova, but by a different country, or, for instance, Italy. These are procedures that take time. And when I watched the hearings, I thought that I will at some point have to provide this sort of documentation as well, and that there would be questions about it. So it's only because of that that I figured out I might have to provide some supporting documentation, knowing that he worked abroad and he earned some funds abroad. Well, when he became legal there, and he was allowed to legally live and work in Greece, in 1997, 1999, but already in 1999 he was legally there. In fact, because in that time, so what happens is that he returned to Moldova in June at some point. So at that time, he already had his documents that allowed him to legally stay and work in Greece. And then he went back for a month, and he was supposed to continue fixing his paperwork. But we agreed that we won't move to Greece and that we would remain here, so he did not extend his legal documents. I mean, the documents that allow him legal stay. And if you don't do this, and if you don't pay these fees for the paperwork, if that happens, then you lose the right to stay and work legally there in Greece. When he left Greece, a stamp was placed, like an interjection, a prohibition or something like that, showing that the document that he had was expired. And he left again when he found out that foreign citizens would be able to legalize their stay in Greece and that they would be able to work. Once he found out that that would be the case, he decided to leave again to Greece, to go to Greece. Well, you explained that very well, and the text, the body of the declaration, was it drafted by that person? Well, as regards the declaration, I will make an overview of that for the Commission. Every time, always, when we would ask for a declaration from somebody, they would ask us, what is it for? And I would explain the person why we needed the declaration. Look, I am a candidate here, and I need this document to show that in that period of time, my husband worked, and etc. Certainly, in certain situations, especially when it comes to citizens of European countries, they are very cautious, and they first want to have some confirmation themselves. So they would first need the person who actually was employed to provide some documentation before the foreign employers, would issue in their turn some documents. So that's why we had that communication back and forth with the Greek. And in all the regarding all the declarations that I submitted to the Commission, regarding all of them, I talked to that employer, because I told that person that the information was required for the pre-vetting commission. But how would you communicate to that person? In what way?
My husband was the one to communicate with him. he passed the certificates that I have an original copy. I have them, and the passport as well. I have them with me. We sent him to Greece, and then we were sent back by bus, that is providing transportation services. But how did you communicate with him directly? I mean, by email, by telephone, or Viber, WhatsApp? My husband did. So you don't know how? What means they used? Does your husband speak? I mean, do they understand each other? Does your husband speak some Greek? Yes, of course. After so many years, he speaks Greek fluently, sure. But the content of the statement, did he ever ask you what to write there? No, he did not ask, did not agree on that. As I understood, depending on what tax is paid in the country, depending on the record keeping of the records that the Greek state kept, based on that the certificate was issued. They couldn't have issued, or I couldn't have told him what salary my husband had, because for some periods of time, or my husband, well, we did not have some strict records of a monthly salary that he had. So I think he did that according to some registers or some reports. Could you please clarify? You said you sent by courier or by bus some certificates. What do you mean? And you said you have original copy. I have a copy of a passport. The passport based on which he got that seal with the identity number for Greece. So this is what you sent to Greece, not other certificate. I did not send. We received certificate from Greece. Like the first two certificates about salary, did you mean statements or certificates? So statement of that gentleman, yes, statement with a stamp of that company that he owns. It's not just a statement of a citizen. It is a statement of a person who has a construction company, which is legally registered. Understood that. Also, I'd like to clarify, you submitted this certificate issued by the company. By the way, thank you for clarifying that. And because at least when I saw the copy you submitted, and I would like to see the original as well, it looks like an affidavit. And the next question is, why did you submit this statement or certificate, as you call it, and not information issued by, let's say, by a state authority from Greece? Don't they issue? At the end you can show it. Now let's focus on the questions. Well, aren't there any Greek authorities that could issue such certificates? I tried. My husband's brother is still there, so after they left, my husband came to the country. He worked there for some time, then came back, then worked for another period of time, and then he decided to stay in Moldova. His brother continued to work, and he's still there. And we tried to obtain certificates or confirmation from something like we have a tax authority or city hall, but in order to obtain such information, the person has to be personally there in front of the authority in order to be issued such a certificate. So, well, maybe you could do that by proxy. So we were thinking about it, but they insist on having the person physically present there to see him or her, because the information is about a third party and it is of personal nature, so they categorically refused. We tried to, we wanted, so besides these statements, we wanted to have some other documents, but, well, that depended on our possibilities. That's why I was saying, knowing that the things are like this, knowing that this is the reality these are facts that took place in reality. I decided I had to be open and show. Subsequently, during questions from the Commission, you provided a new statement from the Greek citizen where he confirmed that in both periods, your husband lived and, well, he had shelter and food provided by the employer. Is that right? Yes. The period while he was working. So why did I say a short period? In the second period, in 2001, when my husband went there for the second time, the wife of a brother also left, and they lived together for 1 month or 2 months. I cannot state the precise period because you understand there's a lot of time since then, and it's difficult to remember all of the details. But I remember for sure that the first time they lived together, and after that, my husband said that, you know, it's better if I live separately on the side of where he was working, because the two of them were a family and my husband was on his own. Well, this employer confirmed that for the entire second period he provided shelter and food. Yes, most companies in Greece, even for like picking oranges or other fields of work, they provide this accommodation and food. Salaries are not that big, but instead the employer covers expenses. I understood that. To clarify, you do not have any other official documents than these two certificates that confirm the income of your husband for that time. Is that correct? I believe these are official documents too. No, I meant other than these ones. Well, yes, everything I had, and even these. If we didn't have a passport that my husband had with this identity number, I wouldn't be able to provide even these ones. He did not turn in the passport because there were cases when people were leaving the country, coming back, and getting again a new passport. The old one was left with the Public Services Agency. Citizens were not asking for it to get it back. My husband asked to keep it because there were cases when people went and reached the border, and if they did not have that identity number, people were turned back. So from the experience of other people, he learned that, like they said, get a new passport, but keep the old one and show it at the border. Like, this is the new one, but I have the old one confirming that you have a legal stay in Greece. Now I would like to move to another set of questions, and specifically how these amounts, 18,000 and 34,000 approximately, were kept by your husband after 2003. Because in the information available to the Commission, and you were asked about it already, now we just want to clarify some things. So you started declaring in 2009, or maybe you did some prior declarations, but we don't have them. I started submitting declarations when it was asked, so you started in 2009. In 2009, you declared only $2,500. In 2010, you declared $3,000 more, that made 5,500. And in 2012, you declared 150,000 lei, which means that the other amount, there should be still there. Where was it? Because despite expenses, according the obligations by the income statement we had to declare the income that people had, salaries, we were obliged to declare money in bank accounts. And I think later on in 2016, a new provision was added that made us declare everything. No, I don't have questions about the declaration, Madam Roșioru. It's right. My question is another one. The rest of the amount, where was it? It was cash. It was cash. It was, no, it was held in cash. Not with a banking institution. No. I informed you it was held by my husband. He was holding the money. So you said the following, that your husband was managing the money and held the money either in banks or in cash at home. So in banks, we could identify only these amounts that we saw in your account. Do you think your husband maybe had other accounts that the Commission does not know about? I think he did not. We have a relationship of trust with each other. I don't think he had accounts that he did not tell me about. So that's according to what he told me, and bank statements. So starting 2016, I have an entire set that proves that it was issued for 1st of January 2014 until 30 December 2016. All accounts, and I think that's what I sent to the Commission in the second round of questions for clarity and to show based on what documents I was filling out the declarations, because myself, I personally did not have access to the information regarding bank accounts that were on my husband's name. So he was the one to share that information with me. Understood that. Subsequently, in 2014, you declared a new deposit, $3,000 and $100,000 and another one. Well, the amounts become much more substantial, and in 2016, almost all, you declared almost all these amounts. $10,000 free, 100,000 lei, and free deposits in total amount of 14,500 euros. Is that correct? That covers all the amounts that the Commission identified based on your declarations. So 12,000 euros, sorry, 12,000 euros according to round 4 of questions. So you, in 2016, declared a new account, a new bank deposit of 7,000 euros. That consisted of the $2,500 deposit declared previously, plus cash that was kept at home, and it was a short-term deposit, and the money was withdrawn before the due date of a deposit, so according to the bank statements. This, in 2016, you had 5,000 euros and 7,000 euros. This is what we want to say. Yes, 12,000 euros. That's the information that I provided to the Commission. 12,000 euros, 300,000 lei, $10,000. And as per round 4 of questions. And so do you know about any other banking institutions where your husband could keep the money before 2009 or between 2009 and 2014? So it's not that I don't recall. I don't know about that. I submitted absolutely everything, and in order to prove my openness and correctness, I am going to provide you the bank statements. They were actually submitted to the Commission, and if you take a look, you can see that in order to make sure that there is no omission in declaration, I asked these statements for every account separately in order to be able to reflect correctly everything. Thank you very much. I just want to clarify one thing. In the certificate certificates that were provided by the Greek citizen, there is a telephone number. Is this the telephone number that your husband calls? Maybe, I don't know. I cannot confirm nor deny that. I don't want to mislead the commission. I could find out and let you know in order to make sure that I'm correct. Because, you know, small things matter, and I don't want to mislead. If deemed relevant, if necessary, I will ask my husband and I will tell you. Please do, of course. Sorry.
Sure, because I'm done, so to move to the next one or no? No question. Okay. Vă mulțumesc.
Thank you very much for this first topic. Let's move to the second issue. So if you need, you have facts in front of you. The second issue is about the two cars. Yes, that's all. I'm ready. If you need water, please. In your 2014 annual declaration, you declared a Dacia Logan car. Manufacture year 2008, we'll call it Dacia Logan 1. That was owned by your husband, purchased in 2014 for 2,000 lei. You provided to the commission a statement from your husband where he stated that the owner of the car was a third party and that your husband did not have any relationship with the owner of the car. Your husband declared that the director of a limited company where he was working during 2009-2013 offered your husband this is a car for service use during that time, 2009-2013, based on a verbal agreement with the intent to sell it to your husband at a preferential price of 2,000 lei, given its technical condition at the end of that period of using it. Your husband used this car between 2009 and 2013, then he purchased it at that price. And your husband described that this happened because of a deplorable technical condition of a car. You submitted the sale purchase contract of 2014, which stipulates that price, 2,000 lei. However, you did not provide any document supporting your husband's statement about the alleged deplorable technical condition of a car. In the second round of questions, you submitted a statement from the previous owner of a car who confirmed your husband's statements. In your 2016 annual declaration, you declared another Dacia Logan car, produced in 2007. It's 1 year older. Let's call it Dacia Logan 2, owned by your husband and purchased in 2015. You declared the value of the car is 5,000 lei. You provided the Commission with your husband's statement, according to which the price of the car corresponded to its technical condition. Your husband also explained that the car was repaired by his relative and then it was sold in 2021 for 10,000 lei. He stated that the 5,000 lei price was real, and you also provided the sale purchase contract that stipulated the same price. You also submitted a receipt presenting the technical condition and the repairs carried out for the Dacia Logan 2 car. According to that document, they had repairs worth of 16,680 lei. You did not submit the sale purchase contract for the sale of a car in 2021, but according to the information from the State Tax Service, your husband paid the capital gain tax for selling the car in 2021. According to information as of April 2023 on 999.md platform, the market value of similar cars ranges from 2,200 euros to almost 5,000 euros. And some questions to this topic. Please confirm first that you declared in your 2014 declaration the car Dacia Logan manufactured 2008 that was purchased in 2014 at the price of 2,008. I confirm that, I declared that. Please confirm you provided a statement from your husband explaining that he used that car as a service car during his job employment 2009-2013. I confirm. Please confirm that in the same statement your husband confirmed that his employer at that time agreed to sell the car to your husband at a preferential price of 2,000 lei, given the deplorable technical condition of the car. I confirm. Could you explain how did they reach such an agreement? And was there an agreed date for the transfer of the car when your husband started to work there? I can explain you, yes. The first vehicle that we still own, number plate 255, that was answered to my husband based on a proxy with general rights. During the first round of questions, the Commission asked what's our relationship with the person that transferred him this means of transport. They were both working for the same company. At the moment of employment, that company, I don't have to call, they give a name, let's say SC Limited Company. When employed, that was the condition. That vehicle was being offered as a car for work purposes with the right for preferential purchase. That was the name of the transaction. Given that the sale agent is going to work for 3 years in that company with no guarantee that after 3 years you will get that means of transport. Some documents that proving that this vehicle will be transferred in the future, well, no such documents were drafted. So therefore, even at that initial time, I was very skeptical about that. I said, what about if you leave this company in 1 year time? I mean, there were some risks that were on the side of the employee, which means on my husband's side. It was a promise, like promise in time. If you work, then in 3 years' time, this vehicle, well, given that the salary was small, you will become the owner of that vehicle. That was an agreement. And there were some obligations, some verbal agreements with these companies. it wasn't only this company who had such an agreement. In many companies, sales agents had these future rights. So if you work there, the only condition was that during that period when you use it as for work purposes, it had a sticker with a brand of a company, like let's say Coca-Cola or Sprite, or depending on the company you worked for advertising purposes. So it had this exterior. Well, your husband worked as a sales agent for that company, yes. When the commission asked me questions about their relationship, initially I tried to obtain the statement from the person who transferred this car to him by proxy. But when I talked to my husband, I realized that he never talked to that person. So the car was transferred through the director, who confirmed that yes, well, he was a sales agent. So before that, I never talked to the director of that company. Only now, when I faced this question, I tried to explain why I need it, for what reason I need it. And again, I asked them kindly to describe a factual situation that happened at that time. Because if you take a look at the salary that was paid, it wasn't attractive at all. I mean, what was attractive at offer was to obtain ownership rights over that vehicle. And your husband fired immediately after he got it, or no? My husband worked there after that as well and used that vehicle after that term when you become the owner. You continue to work for that company, so that is like a privilege, getting the transfer of that vehicle, or that good. Only provided that you will work for that period of time. I cannot say, but I could take a look at the declarations and see until when he worked there. He worked around 10 years for that company, for sure, quite a lot. And after that, he moved to another one. Well, because of the situation or offers that he got that were more attractive. I submitted the declaration, the statement, from the person who was the director, because all these agreements and matters regarding the documentation were handled by the director. Also, I submitted a confirmation to the commission that that person was holding that position at that period of time. With respect to the price, I don't know if I'm in the right place to state what the market price was or what the market price is for this vehicle, because transferring the ownership rights, and for me, I explained it in a very detailed way. I don't know how it works now, but at that time, almost all companies were providing such services. Because after 3 years of you working on countryside roads, and we know the condition, you can see that that car is like being used for a taxi. It is in a deplorable condition. Well, so this agreement that you mentioned is for him to work 3 years on that car, and then regardless of the fact if he leaves or he stays, that he can have a car. Yes, that was a condition. That condition was good for the agent. He was getting experience, making effort as much as possible, and for the company, having a guarantee that the person commits for long term. Your husband worked there until 2020, right? Give or take. Approximately, yes. Until 2019, maybe until 2020. So I can take a look at the declarations and give you a certain answer. And after he got the car from the company, he continued to work on the same car. He was not given another car. at that time. Why am I saying? I don't know if this is what people do now, but then certainly there were colleagues who worked at Coca-Cola with the right to buy the vehicle. I think there was a Turkish company distributing. Maybe it was different because I was telling him at that time, but okay, this is just a risk that is put on your shoulders. At any time, the obligation, it is possible for it not to be fulfilled. But the risk you're mentioning is that he had a small salary. Is this the risk? No, the risk to get it. I mean, what's the guarantee? Where's the guarantee that in 3 years' time he will get it? Meaning that it wasn't his car, there was no risk. There was a risk that that obligation will not be fulfilled. Do you mean that? No, I mean that at any time, let's say if he were to leave the company, he would not get the car. And after 3 years of work, he had no written agreement that the company was going to transfer that vehicle to him. I mean, they could withdraw, let's say, or give up on that offer at any time. My husband was in a very disadvantaged situation, but the trust he had in the team where he worked, I think that's what made him accept that agreement.
So that first car, Dacia Logan, was bought, I mean, your husband bought it in 2014, is that correct? Yes. And now in 2016, you declared another car that you purchased in 2015, Dacia Logan again, but a 2007 model for 5,000, right? And you provided a declaration from your husband ascertaining the fact that the 5,000 lei is the one that corresponds to the technical condition the car was in. Can you confirm now or clarify now the price? Well, I submitted to the commission a certificate with regards to the fact that when my husband bought the other car, the first Dacia was already ours, so we already had the first Dacia car. So when the other car came around, considering that it was in the poor technical condition, considering the technical condition of the first car, the second offer came around. So there are two cars that are not very good, and but the prices are affordable. So the second car was rather bought for the parts. The technical condition of the second Dacia, that was further alienated. So the second car was in a very bad technical condition. And that's why they took it to a car service, to a car body shop. And they've established what parts will have to be replaced, what parts of the car are damaged. But the repairs on that car were not performed. So, I mean, the car was not repaired there at that body shop where they went for a consultation, because it was very expensive. So they decided to use the services of an individual, a relative to be more precise. So that was a close relative who has this workshop or place where he performs this sort of works, repairs of cars. So the alienation of the car with matriculation number, registration number 155, well, if you look at, it was in a very poor condition, technical condition. I cannot even say too much. As a woman, so to speak, I am not that knowledgeable about cars, so I cannot tell you in very specific terms how bad it was. But even the doors had rust on them, and the paint was off in certain places, so it really was deteriorated and didn't look well. Madam Roșioru, let's clarify another issue. You submitted to the commission a copy of a receipt, and there we can see a list of services that were provided, these repairs that were provided. No, that is not repairs that were performed already. So at the time of the procurement, when they bought it, they took the car to a body shop, and my husband, together with a seller, went to this car workshop, let's put it like that, to have a check on the car and see what condition it was in. And it was established at that time that there are certain parts that were damaged. So that was a list of the things that had to be repaired at first sight, so to speak. When they, however, looked, it had a closer look at the parts of the car that had to be renovated, it came out that it was far worse than they thought initially. And for that reason, a realistic evaluation of the condition of the car was performed. So this is a copy of what you provided us. So this is the amount to be paid, is that correct? Yes, if the car was repaired by that car service. But my husband did not have the car repaired there. So if he were to, then he would have had to pay this. So when my husband saw that the car was in a bad condition, he decided to take it to that car service. So you did not pay the 16,000, no. The condition of the car was further improved. I mean, they would just take some parts from different car parts from different parts, from different cars, and they just put it all together into this car to make it drivable. The first car was, as my husband told me, was as in like very basic. There was something that was missing. There was something that was missing in the first car. The second car was a little bit better in terms of what it had. So they just sort of merged two cars into one, so to speak. And the second car is still around. So we thought that rather than selling it at a price that's not even worth it, we decided to rather use it. You said that you sold the second car. Yes, yes. So that's why I said that by selling the second car, when we saw what condition it was in, we decided not to sell the first one. So we decided just to use the first car when we would go out into the field for some farm work. What about the parts that you took from the first car? Did you have them replaced? Well, some parts were replaced, and some investments were made into that car. But everything related to the repairs of the car, that was all carried out in the workshop of a close relative. My husband participated in that as well, and the parts were bought by that close relative. When you said that there was an offer, this offer of buying the second car, does this have any connection with? No, it has no connection. It's just an individual, and that car was just out on sale. Somebody told him that that car is being sold. It's a little bit deteriorated, but the price is good. And for that reason, even at the time, I said, I thought that maybe was not worth it. But that's what he decided, to go for it and to buy that second car. I don't know. And then as for the price of these cars, I am not sure whether I have the capacity to assess, to give an assessment of that. Because out of the discussions with my husband, he said, look, I told him, look, the commission provided this and that information. So there was this excerpt that I provided. No, I showed him what you provided to me. And my husband said that it was a different, there are different types of cars. I mean, the models were slightly different. But both contracts were drafted by your husband, and it was his name. Yes, and was he the driver? Or are you both driving those cars? Let's put it like that. I drive... I think it's in 2018 that I got my license, that I started driving, and I don't drive too often, just once in a while. Sometimes I use the car, but not the Dacia. Is there anything else you would like to clarify and further add? No, it's all clear to me. It's only if the members of the commission have anything else they would like to ask. I tried to do my best. I try to do my best to share with you the realities that my family experienced, my husband, myself, and the other close relatives. If you have other questions, I am ready to answer them. I am ready to provide any other explanation if there's anything that you feel was not quite clear. Microphone, please.
I have just one question. So the second car that was bought for 5,000 lei in 2015, and then it was sold for 10,000 lei in 2021. How was it possible to sell it for twice the price 6 years later? Can you explain that?
Certainly, as I said, that car, well, there were some repairs performed on that car, and therefore its condition improved. It was not sold in the same condition that we bought it in. So investments were made into it to make it better. And this is also proof of the fact that it was in a poor condition when it was bought. And thus my husband invested money into that second car. He bought parts. Well, as for the work itself, that individual did the work for free because that is a very close person to our family, so we didn't have to pay for these services itself, but only for the parts. And not long ago, everything related to the repairs for dacha, for instance. So my husband would only go to that person because he is very good at what he does in terms of car repairs. I am not sure whether I can explain it better than I am right now. The only thing that I can still add is at the time when the declarations were being filled in, I had never even wondered about whether the price was realistic or not. I mean, I knew I had the obligation to put down the price on the basis of the act or the document that I was provided. Even now, I can't just go out and say, like, this car costs 5,000 or 10,000. If somebody tells me that the price of this car is like an X amount, I will not be able to refute that information, to question that information, because I don't feel that I am knowledgeable in terms of cars, and I don't feel like I can judge and appreciate what the actual value of a car would be. I mean, what I can see is, to say the shape and the color, and that's how far my knowledge goes as far as cars are concerned. So I could not give more clarification than that.
Clarification. So the second Dacia is purchased in 2015?
Da.
Yes.
Okay. 2016. And purchased for 5,000 lei, correct?
Da.
And then it's sold.
According to the supporting documentation that was provided to me by my husband, that is the price.
Sold for 10,000 lei in 2021, and there were some repairs made to the car between
Investiții.
Right.
Da.
Investments, we could call them.
16,680 lei, which was an estimate, was not an invoice for actual repairs paid. Do I understand that correctly?
So that evaluation of the automobile repair shop made that estimate. But in addition to the parts, to the car parts, the services were also included there in that list. But it was actually our marriage godfather who performed the repairs on the car. So my husband didn't have the car repaired there at the repair shop, but at our godfather. So we decided to reduce our costs. So my husband only purchased the parts that were required, that had to be replaced in the car. So that's the investment that he made into that. If my husband would have been happy with the price of the services and parts at the automobile repair shop, he would have accepted just that, and he wouldn't have gone to buy those parts on his own. But the repairs of this car, well, first of all, it took time. It's not like the car was bought today, and it's today that he just started driving it around. So it took a while. It took also investments in terms of time, not only money. And these cars, even right now, I'd say it's the first car that I used. I did not even, I wonder why didn't I take a picture of that car for you to even look at what that car looks like. at this moment in time. And it's not like it's unprofitable to, I mean, I'm not even sure it's worth selling it, because looking at the wear and tear and its technical condition, it's really far from ideal, so to speak.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify one factual matter, if I understand it correctly. So you bought the first car, and then at a certain period of time you bought another one. Do I understand correctly that some parts of this second car was used for the first one, or I misunderstand something?
No, you got it right. That is correct. Certain parts were taken from the first car and inserted in the second car. So some parts, I cannot tell you very specifically which ones. I did not clarify this with my husband. But well, you see, the intention behind this transaction was to take two cars in a bad condition and make one car in a good condition. So make a good car out of two bad cars. That was the first intention that made us go for the purchase of the second car. The second car was not bought, was not bought to serve as an operational vehicle, so to speak, we would drive. But it just took us time to make it operational and to make it drivable, and only after that we started using it. So initially, at the very beginning, when my husband said, look, I'm going to buy this car, and I said, why do you need to buy it if it's in a bad condition? I mean, it's not worth it. And then he said, look, because we're going to have two cars in a bad condition, and we'll just make one good car out of the two of them. And the repairs of the second car, the repairs took, you see,
ended up using the parts of the first car to repair the second car, or not really? Because I'm afraid I'm confused with this.
I mean, I can't tell specifically that particular parts were taken from a car and then put into another. I mean, if he would have taken the parts from a first car and put into the second, then it wouldn't have worked at all. But I mean, it's not that what I'm saying, but it's just initially, I mean, that's what the intention. We had some discussion at home. Why do you need to buy a car that is not in a normal, good condition for you to drive it? And the explanation of my husband at that time was that I am going to use it for the parts, as in I'm going to get the parts from it. But later he bought the parts, or some parts, to make it drivable. So the initial purpose was not to actually drive it as a car, as you would drive a car. Usually when you buy a car, you buy it to drive it immediately. You bought it now and you drive it now. But, I mean, that was the thing. I might have said things in a way that could have misled you, because I told you about the intention. So because that was the intention, we had a bad car and we bought another bad car, so that's what it turns out like that. But that was the intention of making one out of two. But the fact that it was sold for more later, the second car, it's because it was renovated but when you are using these cars, they'll still have a particular degree of wear and tear. But it also depends on what things are, or what prices are on the market. So the market also has an influence on that. It's not us as sellers who dictate the prices. The seller will offer something for the market. And if there is a buyer for that good price, then fine. I mean, I would have even liked it if he sold it for more than that. But considering its condition, I mean, when you would look outside, I mean, on it, like the appearance didn't look good, because I cannot tell perhaps that much about the inside of it.
I don't see anyone else, no further questions from the Commission. Then I would like to give you an opportunity to make a brief closing statement to the Commission. Please go ahead.
Honored members of the Commission, I would like to thank you, first of all, for all the time that you dedicated to my hearing today. I would like to say that to me, this was a complicated endeavor. Complicated not because of the fact you were going to check and verify all those aspects related to my integrity, but complicated and very complicated because I had, in all this entire time, I had to go to people and ask for information. I mean, people who contributed to my material well-being, so to speak, to my parents, to my husband. I had to ask them to provide documentation. They are the people who provided me with a decent lifestyle, even the vehicles. They might not be luxurious, but I appreciate what I have. So they provided for me. And now, well, starting with the first round of questions and answers, the second, the third, and all the time there were these questions, but why did you do it like this? Why did you do this or that? I mean, there had to be a contract, for instance, and this is complicated because you have to look all the way back in so many years, and you need to look back at the accuracy of all transactions. You start paying attention to transactions that you might not even have participated in, and you were not a party to, and it was a time of analysis. And I think that only 2 questions actually had to do with me as an individual and as a citizen and as a prosecutor, I could say. But I would also like to say that regardless, this was a positive experience because after I've gone through all the stages, I feel that all my income declarations at this moment in time are 100% accurate. I was and I continue to be in favor of transparency. I've worked and I've been guided by the principle that what an ordinary person can do, we cannot. We, those who are in the position of prosecutors, cannot afford what ordinary citizens could afford. We have a stronger accountability towards our citizens to do the right thing in any situation. I hope I was credible in my declarations, in my answers. I hope that my answers went beyond and reflected the realities of the Republic of Moldova as well. We cannot forget about informal economy. It exists in European countries as well. There is under-the-table payments. This phenomenon exists, and the citizens of Moldova and members of my family as well decided to go and work abroad, not because they decided to go because they thought that they would be able to provide more for their families if they worked abroad. They had to choose that, to make that choice. I looked back in time and I realized that we've been married for 24 years, and my relationship with the prosecution is also about 24 years old. So when I established this family, I also established a relationship with the prosecution, with being a prosecutor. So I tried to be honest and as fair as I could, and I tried to show maximum diligence with regards to observing all requirements to me as a prosecutor and as a citizen of the Republic of Moldova. This activity, this evaluation also made me pay attention to today, and not only today, in fact, but even when we just started it, when I just applied for this, for being a candidate, I started to keep a closer eye on expenses and keep closer records, which is, I looked at what is not reflected in the law, what is not required according to the law, and there are things that we as mere citizens, so to speak, sometimes don't treat with utmost seriousness. So we sometimes don't keep very strict records. We just make some rough estimations sometimes, like we have this particular income, and then we think that the expenses are going to reflect or to match the income that we have, but we must every time be very thoughtful. This evaluation taught me that you need to have proof, you need to have evidence, you need to keep records, and you need to have the supporting documentation, official documentation issued by the authorities of the state. And I hope that this whole evaluation will ultimately have a positive impact on the prosecution system in Moldova. And I hope that that today you will also Well, there's a very important religious holiday today in Moldova, and I hope that it'll bring peace to you as well. Thank you.
With this, we come to the end of the hearing. I thank you again for answering all our questions today, and of course all our written questions before. The Commission will of course now withdraw for deliberations, and as much as possible we will strive at delivering a decision within a month from the date of this hearing. And again, thank you very much, and hereby I declare the hearing closed. Thank you.